From the studios of Farm Journal Broadcast, this is AgDay.
Coming up on AgDay, it's summer camp time. We'll take you to one camp that's making a difference.
I hope to stay involved with the environment and ecosystems, at least volunteering, if not with a career in it.
New information on the investigation into America's largest dairy farm after undercover video shows alleged animal abuse. Negotiators race against the clock to reach a deal after the president threatens new tariffs on Mexico.
AgDay, presented by the all-new Chevy Silverado, the strongest, most advanced Silverado ever.
Good morning, I'm Clinton Griffiths. Today is the day President Trump threatened to impose a 5% tax on all Mexican goods. It's an effort to pressure Mexico into stemming the flow of Central American migrants across America's southern border. Both sides held talks last week and claimed to have made progress. Mexico's foreign secretary arrived at the State Department Friday after spending several hours there on Thursday. The president tweeting out, quote, "If we are able to make a deal with Mexico, and there's a good chance that we will, they will begin purchasing farm and agriculture products at very high levels starting immediately. If we are unable to make the deal, Mexico will begin paying tariffs at the 5% level on Monday," end quote. And trade negotiations continue on another front. Treasury Secretary Steven Mnuchin met with China's central bank governor over the weekend at a Group of 20 meeting in Japan. It's the first meeting between senior officials from the U.S. and China since trade talks between the two countries hit an impasse last month. The People's Bank of China governor saying his country has tremendous monetary and fiscal policy space to make adjustments to the economy should the trade war worsen. President Trump has signed a $19.1 billion disaster aid bill. It's aimed at helping communities across the country bounce back from hurricanes, floods, tornadoes, and fires. The president tweeting this photo of himself holding the signed bill in what appeared to be his office aboard Air Force One. The president saying the aid is, quote, "so important for our great American farmers and ranchers," end quote. Now, the American Farm Bureau Federation releasing a statement saying the disaster relief measures signed by President Trump is an important lifeline for farmers and ranchers. Residents of Arkansas continue to deal with historic flooding along the Arkansas River. And while waters are finally receding in many parts of central Arkansas, farmers in the area say it may be weeks before the water's totally gone. This time, there were warnings.
This is a flood and not a flash flood, and I'll say flash flooding is rainfall that falls here that we have to deal with.
A flood they saw coming.
We moved all the combines and stuff out. Tractors are all out of here to high ground. It may be a month until we can access our farm again.
A month to process the wall of water now covering crops, livelihoods, and generations of farms.
The actual river is probably 1,000 to 1,200 feet from where we're standing right now. That's the actual river. And everything behind me is basically farmland. But I've never seen it like this. Never.
Spring field work in Arkansas was already behind.
This year we've endured the wet, cold spring just like most of our neighbors.
We hadn't planted a soybean one yet, so I guess some of the good things is we haven't got our total expenses out there in all the crops.
But the crops that were in now sit below the surface.
We had several acres of rice planted. We had 380 acres of corn down in here, and it's all gone.
Cattle and livestock also feeling the pinch.
That's the only hay we may have to feed these cattle for a while, so we loaded it up again and carried it to higher ground again.
Now they wait, watching the water and hoping it doesn't get worse before it gets better.
The levee system and all the control structures that keep the river in its banks are going to be tested. Last night when the gentleman from the Corps of Engineers on the news said we will measure this flood event in weeks and not days, when I finally went to sleep, that's what I was thinking about.
As the farming part of this job sits frozen,
It may be a month at least until we can get back in the fields, and at those dates, I don't see a crop getting put in the ground this year.
I figured, there's going to be a lot of preventive planting going on from up this river valley, and so there's no crop at all.
these producers remain hopeful.
But you got to have faith, and you got to have confidence in yourself, and just hope for the best.
Farming is a gamble. Every bit of it is a gamble. You plant something hoping for a rain or not too much rain.
They always say nothing lasts forever. So, you know, once the water recedes, and, you know, the farmers will work up another game plan to see how we can challenge it again. You know, that's man against nature.
Many farmers who are finally getting out in their fields are dealing with a muddy mess. Meteorologist Mike Hoffman has more. Today's crop comments. Mike.
Thanks, Clinton. Josh Shockman shared this photo with us on Twitter. Now check out that tractor. It is really stuck in the mud. Josh lives in southeastern North Dakota. Looks like it's going to take quite a bit of work to get that tractor unstuck. Now take a look at the estimated rain over the last week. You can see it nationwide. Really, everybody east of the Rockies had at least a little bit. We'll check some of the heavier amounts coming up in just a few moments, but first, here's your hometown forecast.
Introducing Farm Journal TV, on demand 24/7. AgDay, Machinery Pete TV. U.S. Farm Report on your phone and tablet. Download the Farm Journal TV mobile app today.
We continue to bring you the latest on the investigation after a video exposed alleged animal abuse by a few workers at the nation's largest dairy farm in Indiana. The Newton County Sheriff's Office says it has requested the names of the now fired workers and the person who shot the footage. An animal rights group released this disturbing footage last week. It shows the workers kicking and throwing young calves at Fair Oaks Farm in northern Indiana. Officials said they would be working with the county prosecutor's office to determine if any criminal charges will be filed. We're also hearing from the Indiana State Board of Animal Health. It says it's aware of the video and that no representative from the animal rights group contacted them to report concerns or share their video. Officials say they reviewed their compliance records and complaint logs for Fair Oaks and say there are no reports of animal abuse or neglect that have been filed with the agency. And Coca-Cola, which distributes Fairlife, one of the farm's products, issued a statement saying, quote, "We fully support and respect the proactive approach that Fairlife and Fair Oaks Farms have taken, and we continue to stay in contact with them to lend any support they need," end quote. When we come back, we'll get you ready for the trading week ahead, including what to watch from markets. That's next in agribusiness. And later, Machinery Pete is doing some spring cleaning. You never know what you're going to find buried under a few decades worth of sale bills.
Closed captioning is brought to you by BASF. Grow smart with BASF. We create chemistry.
Plant-based meat maker Beyond Meat beat Wall Street's expectations in its first earnings report since its initial public offering last month. The California-based company lost $6.6 million or 95 cents per share in the first quarter. That's up slightly from a 98-cent loss in the same period a year ago. Now, adjusted for compensation costs and other items, the company lost 14 cents per share. That was better than the 15-cent loss analysts had forecast. Now, Beyond Meat reported revenues of $40.2 million. That's more than triple the prior year, and the company was the first pure-play vegan meat maker to go public. Soybean prices slipped on Friday amid ongoing trade tensions between China and now Mexico. Here's an update from the CME.
Today in the grain market, soybeans were lower. The sluggish exports are weighing on the futures, and that it seems that it's going to leave some of the ending stocks with a little bit of like a higher estimate, and with no trade deal going on. We're still looking for the report coming on Tuesday that just has really a bearish outlook ahead. Now with corn, the market was a little bit mixed. The underlying support does remain because the wet weather certainly is going to affect the acreage, and the idea that the yields will be affected later in the summer remains to be seen, but there's still an idea that absolutely we're going to have some reduction of those estimates. But again, they're just estimates, so we have to wait to the end of the season to find out. Wheat was also easier. The USDA is still giving the crops actually some high ratings, which is a little bit of a surprise. And with that, then that means that the winter with the spring wheat and the winter wheat troubles weren't really as bad as they thought.
We're joined by Craig Turner. He's the author of Turner's Take and a broker at Daniels Trading. All right, it's kind of an interesting week of trade last week. What was your take on what we saw markets do, and what do you anticipate this week going forward?
Yeah, so a lot of volatility. We are trying to figure out exactly what's going on with the acres, and now yield is going to become a big question. So now that we're probably going to be around 80% on the corn planted, soybeans, the weather's improving. The market's starting to price that in, and now we're seeing this consolidation. the second leg of that will most likely focus on yield going forward.
Yeah, well, and we expect a USDA report this week, and we'll be talking about planted acres, harvested acres, and of course yield. And you brought this document in, a graph in, and it's pretty interesting as far as the drag that we may see on corn.
Yeah, absolutely. This is from Farm Doc Daily. Do a great job of putting this information out from University of Illinois. And what it's really showing us is the yield deviation based on how early or late we plant. And you can see on this chart, the later we plant, corn really does take a pretty good hit on yield. So when we see the crop conditions report, the good to excellent, the poor to very poor, the market is going to look for some ratings that were substantially lower than last year.
Okay, and we expect to see that this week. And soybeans, a little bit different though.
Yeah, soybeans is an interesting one. When you look at this chart, yes, we do see, maybe a bushel or two loss as we go later in the year, but it's not as drastic as corn. And I think you can see that one of many reasons why corn is probably acting better than soybeans are right now in price.
Yeah. As we get through the rest of this month, what will you be tracking to see what our markets are going to be doing?
I'll be taking a look at the future spreads. I'll be taking a look at the yields and the weather, right? And what the market will be telling us is, do we need to price ration? If the weather doesn't do well, or if the crops are really affected by the late planting, we'll see that in prices. We'll see that in the cash prices, but we'll also see it on the future spreads like DEES versus DEES or NOVE versus NOVE. The market will let us know if we need to price ration or not.
All right. Well, it's kind of an interesting time to be watching these markets. Appreciate the insights as always, and we'll be back with more Ag Day coming up in just a minute.
To contact Craig or listen to his podcast, go to Turner's.
Welcome back to Ag Day. Meteorologist Mike Hoffman here. And Mike, if we look at rain over the last week, there's just kind of a lot to go around.
Yeah, there really has been. This is from a week ago Saturday through this past Friday, so it actually includes a little bit of the wet pattern for the plains and the lower lakes and a little bit of the new pattern. So like Clinton said, it kind of spread it all over the place in that situation. So part of the pattern was the southern plains, central plains into the southern Great Lakes, and then this new pattern with the storm system starting over the southern plains, it's moving through the east. So southeast, and so much of that area has had rain over the past 36 to 48 hours, which would fill this whole area in. But during the period that we're looking at, you can see some of the heavier amounts. Wow, Panhandle of Texas. These are places that just don't get much rain typically this time of the year. On into Oklahoma, northern Texas, even down to San Angelo. And then you see some real heavy amounts to the west of Houston there. These are 8-inch plus amounts. Much of southern Louisiana over toward New Orleans getting a bunch, and you can see the Panhandle of Florida as well. So here's the pattern. Again, we're not going back to that wet pattern that we were seeing, but we are going to see some changes in the pattern right now, and that is some cooler air moving through most of the eastern 2/3 of the country. Another secondary little trough there, you can kind of see digging in behind the first one, is going to really deepen that trough all the way into the southeast, which is going to spread some cooler than normal weather. It's still pretty warm into the southeastern parts of the country by the end of this week. Then as we head through the weekend and into early next week, you can see kind of a progressive pattern, although there's a little bit of a cutoff there north of the Great Lakes and trying to cut a little low pressure system off over the central Rockies. So we'll see how that works out, but that's nothing major league hot or cold by the time we head into next week. But this week, we're going to be below normal in 2/3 of the country, a lower 48 anyway. Great Lakes, most of the plains, all the way through much of the southeast except for South Florida. Above normal in the western states. Precipitation this week, below normal for a change. In the Mississippi Valley, above normal in the east and the Rio Grande Valley. Checking out the 30-day outlook for temperatures, I'm going above normal in the southeast, parts of it anyway, above normal in the west, and then from the Great Lakes into the northeast, and also the high plains, central and southern plains below normal. Precipitation over the next 30 days, Great Lakes northeast below normal, above normal from the southeast through the central and southern plains into the central Rockies. That's a look across the country. Now let's take a look at some local forecasts. Heading to Redding, California today, sunny with near record heat, high of 105. St. Cloud, Minnesota, partly sunny and comfortable, high of 74. And Alma, Georgia, muggy with a shower or thunderstorm around, high 87.
Coming up, you won't believe what Machinery Pete found after doing a little house cleaning.
Stick around, folks. Coming up, we're going to compare used tractor values to 30 years ago.
Your next piece of equipment is on MachineryPete.com. Search equipment from dealerships across the country to find what you're looking for. Only on MachineRepeat.com.
You never know what Machinery Pete is going to find, especially when he does a little house cleaning.
So 30 years now I've been tracking auction prices, folks. And I tell you, this week I was cleaning in my office, which tends to be a little messy. But anyway, I found one of our old books. So this is way before the internet. And in this book was a chart where I had shown the average auction price on some common tractor models, including a John Deere 4440, which of course Deere made from 1978 to 82. Now here's that chart from 30 years ago. You can see 30 years ago, 1989, average auction price was $22,580. Now if we zoom forward till today, here's that same chart on John Deere 4440 tractor values the last couple years, and you can see so far in 2019, average auction price $18,779. Now really not that different than 30 years ago. And you can actually see the last couple years, the average price on a 4440 has increased just slightly, actually up 8.7% versus 2 years ago. Now obviously I've seen quite a range of auction prices so far this year. Here's a picture of the lowest price 4440. This was a salvage condition 4440 that brought only $3,700 on an April 30th auction in East Central Texas, a consignment sale. And on the flip side, you might remember this 1980 model, one owner, only 2,147 hours on it, quad range, that brought $43,500 on a farm estate auction April 10th in southeast Minnesota. That's the 5th highest auction price ever on a 4440.
All right, thanks Greg. One kid's quest to improve her community is making a difference. We'll see what she's doing and how a camp for teens in Kentucky helped inspire her next.
Closed captioning is brought to you by BASF. Grow smart with BASF. We create chemistry.
Summertime is camp season for kids in Kentucky. Each June, the State 4-H Teen Conference kicks off. The 4-day event helps develop life and communication skills and leadership. Jeff Franklin from the University of Kentucky introduces us to a young woman who took what she learned to start her own community club.
Lost River Cave is a 70-acre park in the heart of Bowling Green, with trails, wetlands, meadows, and a restored prairie.
We're going to rip it out and we're going to take it to that big pile that you see over there.
The natural landmark is dependent on volunteers who help maintain the park, like Anna Sweets. The South Warren High School senior started a 4-H environmental club after attending last year's Kentucky 4-H Teen Conference.
We volunteer a lot at Lost River Cave because it's such a great ecosystem here, right here close to us. So we volunteered with the Volunteer Invasive Plant Program, which is what we're here doing today.
Sweets has attended 4-H Teen Conference the past 3 years.
So your parents probably have tips on how to do that.
She came home last year and told Warren County 4-H agent Janet Turley she wanted to start an environmental club. That was music to Turley's ears.
This is one of my proud moments as a 4-H agent is you know, you're always trying to increase the leadership skills of your 4-H members. And so she's been thinking about this idea as being wanting to have an environmental club. And so I told her, I said, you know what, why don't you be a club leader and see where you go with it.
Where Sweets and the environmental club have gone with it is here at Lost River Cave, volunteering to help remove winter creeper, an invasive plant that has set up shop in the park and isn't welcome.
But the best thing to do for the volunteers is to target one thing, and that way we can focus on one thing and figure, you know, really see the benefits that pulling this one thing out, and of course working together on it. It's really simple. The idea is just to be outside, you know, and to remove this one plant. It is really the one that takes over quite a bit too.
Besides helping eradicate invasives, the environmental club volunteers for other events in the park. Sweets is interested in the environment and the ecosystem and plans to follow that path in college at Western Kentucky University this fall.
I hope to stay involved with the environment and ecosystems, at least volunteering, if not with a career in it.
From the University of Kentucky College of Agriculture, Food and Environment, I'm Jeff Franklin reporting.
Thanks, Jeff, and that's all the time we have this morning. We're sure glad you tuned in. It's been part of your day with us. From all of us here at Ag Day, I'm Clinton Griffiths. Have a great week.